Hey, good afternoon, everybody. This is Doc. How's everyone doing? It's 2 o'clock on Wednesday afternoon, September the 30th, and been quite a day already. I spent 5 hours this morning over at a client's place working on some stuff and hustled back, so I apologize for the late invitation to the webinar. I also came back at 12:30 today to find out that our guest had been called away for some emergency stuff, and so on it goes. So what I did was um, I scrambled. I didn't want to skip today because I had blocked out, a solid hour, hour and a half to make sure this got done. So what I did was I put together some topics that I think are probably worth talking about, which will probably like 15 or 20 minutes max worth of topics, and then we'll open it up to your questions. So if you've got any, I've got the Skype room on the side, and Justin is here. Say hi, Justin.
What's up, everybody? Yes, I'm here. I'm watching for your questions. And if you got any questions for me as well, just throw it in.
Justin will be managing the questions. I'll try to keep my eye on them as best as possible. So let's go ahead and open it up. So first slide here just says topics by Doc. I wanted to talk about a few things that have come up in the last few days, some of which are
Hey,
not.
Doc, I'm not seeing your screen. Not seeing your screen yet.
Okay, cool. I never know. Just tell me when it shows up, okay?
Okay, we're seeing it now.
Okay, cool. Okay. So anyway, I put together a small handful of topics to talk about, like I said earlier, and some of these are new and some of these are sort of rehash. And we haven't talked necessarily in detail about them before, but they kind of came to mind um, with some stuff that I've got going on that I had going on this week and even last week, because I wasn't real active on last week's call that I wanted to talk about. So first off is hosting. Hosting is, especially for those people who build big sites like SerpShaker style sites, hosting is always an issue, and it's one where uh, the questions never seem to stop in the Skype chat room and in all the other rooms that I'm a part of. So I wanted to tell you about a couple of things that have been going on that I've discovered recently with that. One is, and this has been the same for a while, about probably 3 or 4 months ago, I discovered that Host9 does cloud VPS hosting. Not super strong machines, but strong enough for decent sized SerpShaker sites for sure, in the range of the 30,000 post sites that I build with, 20 tags and a little light spinning and what have you. But anyway, the cloud VPS that they put out is done in 5 tiers, and one of the things I get with both coaching students and just people in Skype chat all the time is there's a natural inclination because each of these 5 levels costs more to try to figure out how low you can cheat your way down on this scale without crippling your ability to run something like SerpShaker. So I wanted to talk about that a little bit today because I had a really in-depth conversation with one of the tech support guys that I greatly trust over at Host9, who specifically worked on some of the setup configuration stuff when they launched their cloud VPS product. He tells me, based on the specs of what I'm building, and he's got uh, the insight of being able to go into my account and actually look at the before and after, and I gave him logins for a couple of my one of my AdSense sites and one of my lead gen sites. And his recommendation is, if you're going to build lead gen sites in the manner that Andres recommended when he showed up on the webinar with me. I don't think it was the SEMeasy webinar that happened several months ago. And if you remember, Andres, uh, he did it sort of like one city at a time. We picked a central zip code and we used 5minutesite.com to turn up a list of um, locations balanced out by keywords based on zip codes within, I think it was a 20 or 25 mile radius, but the number of miles he used isn't the important part. You'll want to judge that based on whatever city you're trying to penetrate. In essence, I've done some building of these types of sites over the last few weeks. In essence, what you do with that technique is you create SERP shaker pages or shaker pages that wind up having a run of about 1,500 posts, 2,000 posts, 3,000 posts, what have you. Not incredibly large, right? Uh, Joey over at Host9 recommends the level 3 VPS for that. Doesn't mean that you won't need more if you keep adding cities to an install, but for those of you who are doing it that way and not using like nationwide sites for AdSense or what have you, he believes that the level 3, and I can't remember the specs off the top of my head, maybe Justin does, but he recommends the level 3 is probably the minimum that you want to go to. And for those of you who are putting up national sites, which is the preponderance of what I do, he recommends the level 5, which will give you the ability to run a 30,000 or more. Some people do. I talked to one guy in our mastermind yesterday who does, gosh, I want to say it was something like 95,000 posts, because he's got one for every zip code. He's got a list for every zip code. Plus, he's got a list of the major neighborhoods throughout the United States. So those are really big sites. If you're running something like that, obviously you want the biggest bulk you can get. I know I have the level 5s. I have several of those, and they come with 16 gigabytes of RAM and have tended to be pretty robust. I've never run out of memory or had any issues with those, so that's probably the way to go. The stated cost for the level 5 is $60 a month, or I think you get essentially 9 or 10 for the cost of 9 or 10 months of that service. You can buy a full year. And for those of you who know, you can use the coupon code DOC to get 20% off of any of those plans. And I just found out today that if you use DOC VPS, all one word, it's probably not advantageous for a 1-year subscription, but if you're buying a VPS, you can get 3 months for the cost of 2. So for $60 for each month, for two $60 payments or $120 total, you would get 3 months of the level 5 VPS. So take advantage of that if you get a chance. But anyway, Host9 turning out to be really good. I did go to another place recently, and I bought my first dedicated server, which has kind of been an adventure. I don't recommend that you rip into it casually. I had to do it a little bit under the gun because of some stuff that was going on with another host, but it's been different. It's dedicated. There is no WHM/cPanel, which is my familiar interface that I love. It's kind of like, super comfortable for me. I'm using this thing called Server Pilot, which is anything but. Technically it is a graphical user interface, but that's where the comparisons stop. It's far more Spartan than what I'm used to with WHM and cPanel, and I'm just kind of getting my arms around it. I'll talk about it more later. I'll talk about the company, and I'll talk about the specs and what my experience is probably a couple of weeks from now. I want to get my head around it more. I've just gotten to the point where I've got some sites up on it. I'm converting them over to Cloudflare. I have learned how to use Backup Buddy to, use my SERP Shaker clone file to restore, but uh, it has promise. It's got more RAM than what Host9 provides in their plans, and so I think I'll be able to build bigger sites. Plus, it's got a 500 gigabyte hard drive, whereas I'm pretty sure I think it's 150 gigabytes that you're limited to with the maximum Host9 plan. We were just
Here, I can tell you.
Oh, good,
It is 150. I
good.
got them pulled up here. It's 150 gigabytes. I actually contacted them and asked them about upgrading the hard drive itself,
Yeah,
and it's so wild. The numbers they gave me was basically it'd be cheaper just to buy a whole nother server than actually just upgrading the hard drive.
but
So
they could technically upgrade the hard drive, huh?
yeah, they could. They really could. And now Tim actually asked, I don't know if this is a joke or not. He says, "Is there a coupon Doctober, D-O-C Tober?"
Oh, well, you know
Well,
what? We were joking about that in Sem-Easy Chat in the Skype room one day. I was trying to get Host9 to give us a buy one, get one deal. And
oh my gosh, that'd be
the
great.
joke was Doctober because it was going to be they're basically what they're doing is I've been an affiliate for a while, but I'm not a super affiliate. I'm just an affiliate. And they said if because I'm trying to teach them about SERP Shaker in more detail, specifically because I'd like them to beef up their plans for some of our larger builders. And in the conversations, of course, I'm leaning on them to get better coupon codes, right? And they said, well, we don't, you really need to sell a bunch more packages than you do. Like they have affiliates who they spend their time, building sites and going out and selling Host9 services, right? That's how they make a good chunk of their living. Well, I can't I can't do that. So basically what they said was it's not going to work out for us to treat you like a super affiliate. We can't give you crazy promotions and codes. However, we'll give you something extra special for October. And if it works out really well and a bunch of Cloud VPS gets sold, then, we'll keep the promotions coming. And so they'll buy one, get one, I guess, was further than they could reach based on the number of hosting packages that I've helped them sell over time. And so the best I could get was this, buy two, get one. And it only applies to the month. So you can't go out and buy 2 years and get a third year free. It kind of bums me out. But I'll write it in here on his question. It's Doc VPS, which if you're buying a VPS and you want to pay monthly, um, that's better than not. And if you just want the 20% on whatever plan, just use plain Doc, and that'll get that done. Anyway, that's all. That's the best I can do. If October works out really well, trust me, I'll be on him about buy one get one because it benefits me too. The other thing I wanted to talk about, and I don't want to spend a ton of time on these, is um, one of our members the other day wrote regrettably in the Skype room, Tim, that he had his AdSense account shut down. And the worst part about it is that I don't think he's really sure how it happened. I think to some degree with doorway pages and with mass page creation, we all kind of fall out of strict compliance with AdSense terms of service. But there are shades of that too. And I got the impression from my conversation with Tim that he wasn't doing anything ridiculously egregious. And so the message here is, and I've been looking into this myself because I don't know if those of you who remember, but I've talked to Todd Basham before on webinars, and Todd is really sharp with this stuff, and he's been with AdSense for a long time. His strong recommendation is that when you start to get to the point where you're at about 3,000 a month or $3,500 a month with AdSense, that you go get another account. And I'll get him on sometime for those of you who haven't seen that presentation or heard it. He kind of can give you some more insight about how he does it. I mean, he uses variations in address and You can set up an LLC pretty easy. There's all kinds of things you can do, but it's really for your protection so that if one of these accounts gets squished like this, you're not all of a sudden, you know, dead in the water. And so he's got a bunch of accounts, and I'm in the process of pursuing a couple of new ones myself. But just keep this in mind, you know, that I think technically our SERP shaker activity, and I know a lot of you guys do SERP shaker activity now, um, is probably contra to what AdSense wants in the purest sense, and that those accounts are vulnerable. Likewise, I wanted to talk a little bit about Amazon. A lot of us are using Zero Bounce, which is a program that notes user activity. Like if, for example, if they go to use their back button after visiting one of our sites, or if in extreme cases, if they veer off of the actual meat of the page, you can have Zero Bounce trigger a redirection over to somewhere else, and most people choose obviously something that's monetized, like an Amazon page with search results that are niche specific or something like that. Some people use eBay, but I wanted to remind you, those of you, that Amazon is not a fan of this, and if they find out about it, they will shut your account down. So one of the things I've done so that I can continue to use Zero Bounce is make sure that on all of my pages there are links to Amazon, so that conceivably someone will have followed that link to Amazon. I think the other thing you can do is there are some settings if you have the upgraded, I can't remember if they call it unlimited or pro version of Zero Bounce, but essentially what it does is it makes sure that you only bounce people who have come in through organic search. So that would be Google, Bing, Yahoo, Ask. I mean, you can decide what user agent strings you want it to look for, but that gives you a little bit of safety because um, obviously you have no chance of redirecting a bot. But you know, if somebody from Amazon, for example, wants to come take a look at your site, they're going to come in directly because they have the information for where somebody got redirected from, and so they're going to come in directly onto your site. And in that pro version, that would, you know, if you've got the settings right, that would not trigger a redirection. So they would, the chances are they would not realize that that there was anything amiss. So just want to use some proper caution with these things, because losing these accounts when you start to build up a decent amount of income kind of sucks. What are these questions we got flying in here? Justin, are you keeping an eye out?
I am. And Tim was saying how he could actually jump on and saying it'd be great for an upcoming interview and talk about getting multiple AdSense accounts in European
Cool.
countries, which would be
Oh
totally
yeah,
awesome.
that would be good. I'll tell you what, Tim, I'll reach out to you, and I'll reach out to Todd, and maybe we can do something. We can all do something together, because I know this has got to be on everybody's mind. We've got a lot of people who generate income from AdSense.
Mm-hmm. Brian was confirming that it is the Pro version that has that option to be able to make it so it's only for the people coming in through Google, Yahoo, and Bing.
Yes, I
Mm-hmm.
believe their address, I'm going to look this up real quick while we're on the call. For those of you who want to check Zero Bounce out, is Force Spark, and I think it's .net. I'm going to verify it. Yes. Okay, let me put that in there. Here is the address to check out Zero Bounce if you don't have it. I really love Zero Bounce. We joke about it in both the SEMeasy chat room and in the mastermind sometimes, about how cool it is that you get it, and you can, I mean, well, let's just say I didn't have any Amazon affiliate income before I started using Zero Bounce, and you know, I'm making a few $100s a month, or a few $100s a month on Amazon, and I hope the party lasts. I've done everything I can to make my sites themselves look like they're already monetized with Amazon, and I've been careful about how and who I redirect. So far it's held me in good stead, but I have heard of other people who were very aggressive and probably do a lot more business with Amazon than I do anyway, which probably opens you up for, more opportunities for a manual review, and one or two of them have had their accounts notably shut down, which, and that can hurt. So the other thing I wanted to talk about was a couple of
Oh, hold
things.
on. We got a couple more questions.
Go ahead.
Let's talk about. Greg actually posted up something that I forwarded to everybody. It's the same product but cheaper, WP0bounce.com. He says last time he looked, it's actually
It's less
same thing but
expensive, huh?
cheaper. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow, how cool is that?
Which is awesome. Yeah.
I'm all good with that.
Well, we got a couple other things, and Tim, we'll get to you. We'll talk. Yeah, let's talk more about Zero Bounce. Tim says, I believe that it was Holly who told me in Skype that Amazon might be able to tell the difference between a forced redirect, such as Zero Bounce, and a normal redirect. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's actually more complex with that. The problem with what Holly did, and I actually talked to the person who, Holly doesn't do all of Holly's stuff, and I talked to the person who was involved in this. I think even more than Holly, and there were some things. I'm trying to remember because it's been every bit of 2 months ago, maybe 3 months ago. There were things that they did not do. First of all, they were redirecting everybody, and they were doing it, right away. There was no effort to limit who they were redirecting. I don't think she even had the pro version, so there wasn't any monetization on the site itself. So if you did get a manual review, you wouldn't have been able to tell. So whether or not they've got the ability to tell, I don't think they can, by the way, to tell the forced versus voluntary redirection. I don't think it works that way because Zero Bounce redirects based on a specific URL that would be otherwise a clickable URL. So it's gonna look like somebody clicked. One of the things that is a problem, I know this is a problem, is I look at my click-through rate, or at least my the rate at which I make sales based on people that I redirect over, and it runs at about 1.4, 1.5%, and I'm sure that in the real world, when somebody looks at a site and clicks on an Amazon ad or something like that, they wind up doing business far more than 1.4% of the time. So I don't ever want any particular one Amazon affiliate account to get too big so that somebody starts snooping around. Was it Greg? Was it you? Somebody actually got contacted by Amazon, like after they started to have some success. I think it was you, wasn't it, Greg? And you kind of blew it off. You didn't want to, you didn't want to get into it with them because you were worried. Yeah, it was Greg. Okay, cool. Greg was worried that they were going to try to find out how he was doing this, and so I think he kind of dodged the request, but it wasn't like an ad rep that reached out to him. So if you have anything like that happen, don't get cocky and try tooting your horn with the ad rep. Just dodge them because you're definitely violating terms of service. Let's see, cheaper page. Yeah. Like I said, I don't know about the prices on Zero Bounce. I just go read about it, find out. I don't know if you can save 10 or 20 bucks one place or another, but I know that you'll not regret having it.
I actually found something. It looks like the Zero Bounce Pro upsell page with a discount. When what I did just did the old site colon search.
Operator.
But I'll let you guys. I don't want to start throwing up links that I didn't really look too far into, but just do the site colon search, and you're going to find several other pages that's like upsells, downsells, whatever.
So you might be able to get it directly without buying the front end, is what you mean.
Yeah, exactly. The developer's license without having to get the whatever version is, the initial offer.
Good job.
Yeah.
I would definitely not fly with the initial offer. So whether you go direct or whether you go through the initial and then do the upgrade, but make sure you get the upgrade and in my opinion, definitely seal it off so that nobody gets redirected unless they've come through organic search. And let's face it, that's a lot of, that's what we're shooting for with SERP Shaker sites anyway. We want to rank, especially in some of these smaller out of the way towns where the clicks might, come few and far in between, but when they do come, because we've got 30 or 40,000 or in some cases, 90,000 posts out there, it's going to add up. But I think it would be wise to make sure it happens with those people. I haven't had any issues, and I've been doing it now for about 4 months. So that's how I would use caution.
Good. Now, Tony wants to know more about the server. Do you want to talk about that now, or?
No, I don't. Tony, I know the guy's name, and I can't even remember the name, what he calls his company. I went with him specifically because of his reputation for this, and I just want to try it out a little bit more. I will tell you this, it's going to run me $160 a month. It's 32 gigs of RAM. It's a 500 gig hard drive, good processor. I noticed the sites that I have up there, they tend to be running really quick. I got Server Pilot installed, the paid version, and that's included in my $160 a month. Based on my initial calculations, I'm going to be able to get somewhere around 500 to 600 sites up there. And no, Tony, it's
nice.
not Ethernet servers.
Hell no, it's not Ethernet. Ethernet turned out to be a muck.
Yeah, the problem with Ethernet is that, honestly, they really don't want our business. Plus, at least as of about 2 or 3 months ago, they didn't have SSD. They had, it was less than that, and you could feel the impact. So, and I think it's small. I think George is a really good guy, but it just was over his head, and I don't think he wanted to make the commitment. I do know that
it was a lot for him. Yeah.
Host9 is fully on board. They're excited about the idea that people, want to buy Cloud VPS and use it for SERP Shaker. And Cloud VPS, if you're starting out with SERP Shaker or any mass page creator, and you're not at a point where you want to commit to a dedicated, it's an awesome plan. I've looked around, I've looked at what's the one, Vulture, DigitalOcean. Go look at those people. Go look at OVH. There's a number, and the price, the value, what you get from Host9 is better than all the others. Period. Without the coupon. So it's just right now, I think, of all the VPS situations out there, I think it's by far, and not even really close, it's the best value. I just wanted to step up to a dedicated because I wanted a bigger hard drive, and I wanted more RAM than what Host9 is putting in there right now, because I want to try some out of the ordinary things here in the next couple of months, and that seemed to be the way to go. But I will, in a couple of weeks, I'll know if it was the right move, and I'll tell you more about the dude and his company and my experience, and a little bit more about Server Pilot and all those kinds of things. I will tell you this, the first couple of hours when it went live and I was trying to do stuff with it, they were really frustrating because it doesn't use name servers. Like, when you sign up for a VPS or reseller or whatever, you point your domains to NS1 at mydomain.com or whatever, and you register those name servers. It doesn't work that way, and that threw me off. So it was several hours before I could get a hold of enough friends who knew how to do it to teach me how that worked. And it was a little funny because you have to use FileZilla. I guess you don't have to use FileZilla, but you've got to have a file manager to get your backup buddy clone and your import buddy PHP file up there for those of us who restore as we do SERP Shaker sites. It was an odyssey for a short period of time, but now that I've got it down and I've got it written down so that my VAs have it documented, I'm pretty cool with it, and the speed seems good. So give me a couple weeks.
I want to touch real fast before I move on into some more juicy stuff. A really nice win for one of our local clients is he had his website on shared hosting, okay, on
Oh
HostGator.
yeah, you told me. Yeah, this is awesome.
Oh my gosh! And
Yeah, this is
so
awesome stuff.
one of the things that we started doing was we started offering dedicated, and we call it secured hosting. Okay, which is basically we take their site. If it's WordPress, we put on plugins that auto updates, and we just do a couple things to make sure that there's no security leaks. Okay, because in all honesty, a lot of client sites are just floating out there. No one's monitoring them, and it's just waiting to get hit by a bot that can take the site down. So we've been onboarding a lot of clients, and it's really easy money, okay? But we took this account and we just moved it onto our server, and that week, I think we did maybe four links coming in from PBNs, okay? And I'm going to paste into the chat here the screenshot from the last week, okay? And look at this rank jump, okay? If you guys see it, their site jumped, I'm talking multi-digits, like 10 to 20, even 30 positions from one, hitting a little bit of good authority to the site, and two, an increase in site speed. Going from that shared, slow, HostGator server over to a real nice VPS. What a huge jump. So that is such a major rank factor right now.
Yeah. Yeah, it's been talked about before. I don't think people take it all that seriously, but the numbers don't lie. And it makes a big difference if you're, if you are, if you're monetizing and people are, I mean, I know how impatient I am when I'm on a mobile device, for example. If you don't do everything you can to make the user experience better, especially if it's something where people are on the move, like they need a repair or they're searching for dinner reservations or something like that, it's your obligation to make that user experience as pleasant as possible, which includes the speed. So, get it done. Spend a little bit more. And clients will pay for that too. I'm sure you found the same thing, Justin. I've got clients who pay $20 or $25 a month just to have a site or two hosted because they know that I've got automated backups happening and can restore in a heartbeat. They'd much rather pay.
Oh yeah, and they know you. And
Yep.
they know you. It's a great relationship, and I definitely say that since getting the VPS, we have definitely profited a couple 100% just on selling hosting now.
Yep. That's good stuff. Thanks for sharing that. Okay, so the next couple of topics I want to talk about have to do with mass page building, just some stuff that I've put together. I made a joke here that by the way, I'm going to sit down and learn in a coaching session tomorrow. I don't think I'll go through all 4 hours, but probably 2 hours tomorrow and then 2 hours within a couple of days after that. I'm going to learn a program called Mass Page Creator. And if you haven't heard of it, I learned about it a couple months ago when we were in another, I don't know what the setting was, but Holly brought it up. She uses it because she's a big HTML person. For whatever reason, she doesn't, I can't remember what the reason is, but she doesn't build much in WordPress at all. And so she uses a WordPress, a SERP shaker alternative called Mass Page Creator, which by and large builds HTML pages, although it also builds pages that you can import into SERP shaker, into WordPress if you want to later on. So I'll get back to you guys later on and tell you how that goes. But the funniest part was that we've been talking about in the mastermind, Becker's bringing out what I guess he thinks is a ripoff or an alternative, a competitor to SERP Shaker, which I think is kind of funny. What's the name of it, Justin? Do you know?
I heard it was Source Flood, but I'm not even sure. Like, honestly, I could not find it anywhere.
Wow.
I really tried.
I think it's Source Flood, Brian types. I think it's supposed to be out like any time now, right? Friday or something like that. You can't say definitively that it won't have some value, but color me skeptical based on the past.
Well, he said live in a webinar, it's not going to be as feature rich as SERP Shaker.
Did he?
Yeah, and he really sourced Surf Shaker. He's like, there's other things to do that. You can use Surf Shaker, blah, 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 blah. I got something that's coming out I'm going to give away for free. And I'll tell you what, I got to see it because I've already tried a couple ones that just weren't very good.
Yeah.
It might be the equivalent, but if you already own Surf Shaker, man, it is such a highly refined program that I can't imagine what else you would want.
Yeah, plus it's getting better all the time too. Andre sticks with it, and in fact, let me go on to that. I put together this short list. I did it the other day actually, when I interviewed a guy named Dan McConnell who is really having some luck. I mean, this Dan had bumped along in internet marketing for a long time and never put anything together that worked, and then he picked up Surfshaker about 4 or 5 months ago, and now he's up to over $100 a day on about 110, 120 sites, which is pretty cool. He was a good interview. He doesn't really like the spotlight, but it was just interesting to talk to somebody who was, a self-professed regular guy and was doing well. And during that call, we sort of put our heads together, and I came up with 5 plugins. One of which, this first one, SS Yelp, was actually created by Andres himself, or he had it developed to go with Surfshaker, and it basically pops in relevant or geolocated Yelp information to on your Shaker page so that you can use your short codes with it, and it'll make sure that all posts that get created have a Yelp listing that is matches the city that you're dealing with. The next one on here is Jason's WP Stealth, and I put that on there because I think when you use SS Yelp, you want to make sure that the results, the Yelp listings that show up, are hidden between the short codes that Stealth uses to hide stuff. There's far more, especially on lead gen sites, that you probably want on the page to be surfed by the bots, but you don't want human beings to get caught up. I find that with lead gen pages, you want to keep them short and to the point with a bold call to action, but you need a lot of other things on the page that will help Google and other search engines appreciate that you should have better rankings, and those things, those extras, I feel are best hidden with a plugin like WP Stealth, which makes sure that they're collapsed to like a pixel size, and then you have to hover exactly on that small pixel area to even know that they were there. The other one is Andre's plugin WP Refresh. That one will come along. I think it comes along every day, and it basically updates your post dates so that it looks like you're continuing to put fresh content on your site. I guess there's some psychological benefit for viewers who see fresh dates, but there's also Andres is convinced that it's making a difference in terms of the bots surfing his site and rewarding him with better rankings for having recency. And the other 2 programs, and I'll get Brian, I will answer that. I promise. I will let people know.
Hey Doc, check this out. There is a Moz article that I read maybe last week where they did a study, a case study with blog posts of refreshing the date,
Yes.
and there was a measurable boost in traffic. So it was a really nice third-party exemplify of that.
Yep. Yeah, it's pretty awesome that all you get that, and that's the only. I'm sure there are other plugins, but I love the fact that refresh is just set and forget. You load it up, you tell it to do its thing, and it takes care of everything else from there. It's really cool. Rich, I don't have that link. You and I have talked about this. Jason's not on this call, and I have not been able to get a hold of Jason to get you a link to buy WP Stealth. But I know. Do you know, Justin, if there's a link? Do you know where that's sold? Okay.
I haven't talked to Jason in a while, and I wish that I had something to give, but I don't.
Okay. Yeah, Tim, I think you made a mistake by disabling it. I don't have the answer to your question, but enough people are using WP Refresh every day that it's obviously not functioning as a red flag for a DDoS. Yeah, and Rich, I'll work on getting you that WP Stealth link. I just you know sometimes it's hard to get a hold of dudes. Let me talk about these last two plugins before I go into something that'll probably take 5 or 10 minutes. Golly, daytime gets away from you. So Peter Pavelka is a guy in the SerpShaker Basic and VIP groups who I guess I don't know that he created these plugins, but he got these plugins created, and they come together, or they come separate, or they come as a package. It's ss-plugins.com. The first one, Unique Image Manager, probably won't jump out to a lot of you unless you've, unless you've seen it in action. And maybe we can demo it at another time. I just didn't have a site ready that, I could risk to some of the stupid stuff that people do when they see site, domain addresses in webinars. Unique Image Manager is really cool because it enables you to import all at once a bunch of images into your SerpShaker site, and then one by one pick those images and insert them into your Shaker pages. But at the time that you insert the image, it pulls up a dialog screen that enables you to basically pop in a bunch of keywords, and it will create randomized keywords for both the name of the file, the anchor text, the alt text, which is incredibly cool, incredibly powerful. And you know what? You can do it manually, but God help you, because it's an incredibly time-consuming thing to make sure that all of those are changed. And you have to really do some of it outside of SerpShaker because of how limiting, or excuse me, outside of WordPress because of how limiting that interface is. So hats off to Peter for creating it. I think he charges $39 for each of these plugins and $66 if you buy the pair. But the second one is what I really, what is just blows me away, guys. He's built on the concept of shortcodes, which was already a big part of SerpShaker anyway, for those of you who are familiar with it, to create this program or this plugin where when you're in it, when you're building a Shaker page, and a lot of us will plop in a ton of static authority text, like sometimes I do 1,500 or 2,000 words, and a lot of it is just paragraphs, right? There's no links in there. It's just straightforward paragraphs, authority paragraphs. Well, you can go and you can highlight each one of these paragraphs and click a button, and it will convert that paragraph into a shortcode. And essentially what it does is it creates a database of these shortcodes where the content is stored one time. And then as posts are created, it can serve it to a visitor, or for that matter to a bot, but it doesn't have to mimic, it doesn't have to duplicate that content on every single post, thereby swelling your site and your database size to just unbelievable levels. It's collapsed. Now everybody's builds are different, right? My builds are off on average about 60% in size, and I'm getting exactly the same impact. So a site that originally would take about a gigabyte is now taking about 400 megabytes, sometimes even less. I've noticed a dramatic effect with my lead gen sites in terms of the percentage smaller that they are. So if you don't have it, seek this plugin out. You'll find it really easy to use, and it's going to save you a boatload of money on hosting. Let me look at the questions we've got here. Joe Geddes asks, okay, let me type this in. I'm going to give you the address to Peter Pavelka's plugins. I'll try to have him on a webinar sometime soon. I don't really know him, but what he did was pure genius, because anybody who knows SerpShaker style sites knows that the databases can get humongous. And because they're so big, the hosting really adds up. So anyway, I want to close. I want to do one last thing before I open it up to just general questions. I want to tell you about something I've been experimenting with for about, I guess it's about 10 or 12 days now. It just started to make me some money over the last few days, like maybe 3 or 4 days, which is what I was waiting for. I've been fooling around. I've been building lead gen sites for a while now, right? And lead gen sites are great, except I find that they're awfully sleepy. So I'm used to building AdSense-oriented mass page sites and beginning to earn income within 2 or 3 days, and that's not how it's been working with lead gen. Uh, it's far more sporadic. Leads come in um, sometimes frustratingly slow. And I thought, how can I earn money from these sites? With AdSense and Amazon or a CPA offer without looking like I'm tacky and having ads, a monetized look to a lead gen page. So here's what I did. And I've talked about this plugin before. There's a plugin out there called Click Missile. And you'll have to Google it to find it because I don't know who makes it or what the address is. I've had my copy for a long time. Click Missile serves ads, but it serves ads with more flexibility than any plugin I've ever seen, including Easy AdSense and some of the other ones that I know are popular. Okay. Greg says he couldn't get it to work on the same site as the SEMeasy plugin. Yeah, that could be, Greg. That's possible. But anyway, with Click Missile, what I've done is, here's how I'm building my lead gen sites today. Let me pull up the structure. First thing I do is I go into settings under reading, and I change to a static homepage. Okay. I put an authority article on that homepage, generally at least 1,000 words. I might go down to 800 words if it's really good, really rich with LSI, and it's often as long as 1,400 or 1,500 words. I insert images. I might use a YouTube video. I'm basically going to make it look really sharp. I want it to be a good-looking homepage, okay? And I've got Click Missile on the site already, right? And so I've got it set up to serve one of these types of ads, AdSense, Amazon, maybe a CPA ad, what have you, in either within the body of my text or in the sidebar. I then go out and create 6 to 8 general posts, semi-authority, maybe not as long. They could be 600, 700, 800 words. 6 to 8 other posts that are generally, I put them to, let's say, for example, my niche is fence repair. So I would call that category something like fence repair basics. It's one that I'm not going to use for anything other than these 6 or 8 posts. And I'll put all these 6 or 8 posts into that category called fence repair basics. And then number 4 is basically a reference to Click Missile. So what I'll do then is I'll go into the configuration for Click Missile and I'll say only serve this ad on posts where Click Missile is, where fence repair basics is the category, okay? And it'll take care of that for me. So I don't have to worry about when I build a lead gen shaker page and I've got, like fence repair Baltimore, Maryland, or fence repair Annapolis, Maryland. These ads are not going to show up in the sidebar or in the lead gen post itself. There's nothing that's going to get in the way of that call to action. I also tick the box for it to show up on the home page because people don't generally find lead gen sites from the home page. They come in on these, town or village or neighborhood specific pages, and that's how you generate the leads. It's not that like they're coming in on your home page. So my theory, my hypothesis was I could monetize these 6 or 8 posts, which, they may or may not show up in a lot of places, and this homepage they're probably going to get fewer hits than the shaker posts taken as a whole, because there's 30,000 of those on some sites, or at least several thousand, depending on how many cities I'm penetrating. And what I wasn't sure of is how long it would take for this to happen. So what I did was I created steps 1 through 4 right away, and I let the site index for took about 4 days for the sites. I did 3 sites. It took about 4 days for those 3 sites to index, and for, let's say, half of the posts that I created to get indexed. And I did boost them with backlinks indexer. So I don't know if that helped or not. One site had every post indexed as well as the homepage. One site had, I think, half. I think 2 sites had about half. Anyway, after about the 6th or 7th day, I was beginning to get traffic, and on about the 7th or 8th day, I started to earn money from AdSense. I haven't tracked whether Amazon's doing anything, but one of the sites has already given me 2 leads that I've been able to sell to a contractor up around the city. And so I think I'm on to a hybrid model here, where you can, if you follow steps 1 through 4, just like I described, then you can go and build shaker pages that are lead gen specific, sort of use the method that Andres did when he built out, I think it was a carpet cleaning site with us on the SEMeasy webinar. And then you could do shaker pages for AdSense and Amazon, which, mine are always like 30,000 town and city posts, and make sure that you go in and check whatever categories, that you send those to, so that monetization shows up on those. And you ought to really be able to build up a dual stream of income, maybe even more than a dual stream of income, uh, in the process. Any questions about that? I'll keep you posted as I compile more data, but the fact that I've already got both forms of income from them is pretty encouraging to me.
Well, I know there was a lot right there, man. I definitely want you to go over it again whenever you get more details, and maybe do a little bit of a graphic.
Yeah, I think a graphic would help, and I'll actually I'll go out and get a domain that I can risk, and maybe we can, I'll get some dummy content built up, and we'll go in and we'll add some of this content together so that you can watch me configure. Uh, but it's pretty cool, because I never thought I'd be able to sort of like dually. I never had that thought before, that I could dually monetize this. And some of you guys are probably out there watching this thinking, well, duh, I do it all the time. But for me, I just thought it was kind of a cool thing. And I'm sure I don't see any reason why everyone else couldn't pull it off if they want to. All right, questions? I did get done in time. Check that out, 2:54. You want to crowdfund for XYZ domain money? No, XYZs are all mine. They are my pretties. I'm still buying them. By the way, for those of you who don't know, the sale was extended to December the 31st. It's like the sale that goes on forever. I do notice now, because I get, when I can't sleep right away at night, when I get in bed, I generally will pull up SEMrush and start going down rabbit holes to find more domains. And I noticed that it's getting a lot harder to find exact match domains, but most partial matches are widely available. So it's getting a little bit picked over. Any other questions? If I missed anything that you've asked and it's still on your mind, please type it in now, because that'll keep me from having to scroll back and make sure I didn't miss anything important.
I think you got everything.
Yeah, it looks good, man. This is awesome. Okay, 5 minutes to go and we're done. Thanks, everybody. It's a good time. Appreciate the opportunity to sit and talk with you guys, and we'll see you in, I guess, 1 week. Thank you,
Yep, see
Justin.
ya. You're welcome, Doc. See you guys.
All right, take care, guys. Bye.